Konnichiwa, and welcome to Reiwa Sannen. Under 2 years ago, the Reiwa era began with an upsurge of hope for a wonderful new era. And then came Reiwa 2, which quickly turned out to be something of a disastrous year. It was going to be the year of the Tokyo Olympics, and we all know what happened to that. But I still believe that Reiwa is going to be a wonderful new era. And perhaps Reiwa Sannen will start to show us that. Today, we're going to talk about 2 words that I've been asked about recently. The first is tori in its attachment to other words. Tori, of course, on its own is the E stem of toru, pass through, and as a noun, it means a road or way, or the act of passing through. It then gets used in expressions like sonotori, and what this means literally is that road or that way of travelling, that way of passing through. And what this actually means is, that's right, you're absolutely right. How does it come to mean that? Well, it's really saying that the way you're thinking, the road, the track, the passage along which you're thinking is the correct one, sonotori. A little bit similar in English to saying you're on the right track, except that you're on the right track in English would imply that you're not quite there yet. But sonotori means you're thinking along exactly the right lines, you're there, you've got it, you're right. Another expression that uses tori is goran no tori. Now, goran, when it's written in kanji, is written like this. So you can see the go is honorific. The ran is actually another way of writing the word miru. Now, I did a video a little while ago on the word miru, see or look or watch, and 5 different kanji with which it can be written. And I said at the time, there are in fact more. I didn't introduce them because they're not all that common. And this one isn't a common way of writing miru either. But with its on reading, ran, it is used, and goran is an honorific way of saying the act of looking or seeing. So, goran no tori, rather like sonotori, means as you can see, along the lines of your seeing, is correct. Just as along the lines of your saying or thinking is correct. Goran no tori, as you can see. Another tori expression is omoidori. Now here, of course, we're using the E stem of omo, which gets translated as think in English, but actually means more than that. It means feel. But omoi often also means one's will, one's desire. And I mentioned this in a previous video when I was explaining how omoi no mama means in the unchanged condition of one's will or desire. And I'll put a link for that in case you're interested in following it up. Omoidori means in the road, the track, the course of one's will or desire. So it means having things go or wanting things to go in accordance with one's will, in accordance with one's wishes. And that can be anything from selfish desire to, when you're in the water perhaps, wanting your body to move in the way that you want it to move, which it doesn't always do when you're in the water. Now, the other word that I've been asked about is sekkaku. Now, sekkaku has a whole range of definitions if you look in the dictionary. It's defined as with trouble, great pains, rare, valuable, precious, long-awaited, kind, generous, specially, expressly, which is rather a lot of things for one word to mean, but essentially they all come down to the same thing, which is the notion that something is valuable and, in some sense, irreplaceable. Now, probably the most common implication is that great trouble has been spent on it. So if we say, sekkaku no doryoku ga mizu no awa da, we're saying, my sekkaku efforts have come to nothing. Literally, are foam on the water, bubbles on the water. So we can see that obviously as the most common usage, the usage people probably think of most often, which is with great effort, with great trouble, having taken the effort to do something. We might say, せっかく東京に来た. We want to go to Sanrio Puro Land because if you've taken the trouble to go all the way to Tokyo, it's a bit of a waste of time if you don't get to Sanrio Puro Land and see Hello Kitty and My Melody and Pom Pom Purin and all the wonderful people that live there, the little twin stars. If you ever sekkaku get to Tokyo, you really must go there. But back to the subject in hand. However, the point about sekkaku is not just the trouble that might have been taken, it's the fact that something is rare and precious and difficult to replace. Going to Tokyo is difficult to replace because once you've left, you've got to take all the trouble to go back there again. But you might also say, せっかくの休日も雨で潰れた. The せっかく day of rest, holiday, was ruined by rain. And that's せっかく because it's relatively rare. You don't get that many days off. So just like going all the way to Tokyo or taking all those efforts to do something, it's せっかく. It's precious, it's rare, it's hard to replace. 広告がせっかくの風景を損なう. Those advertisements, those billboards, ruin the せっかく scenery. And again, せっかく in this case doesn't mean hard work. It doesn't mean rarity in the sense of not coming very often. It just means that that scenery is something beautiful and unique and irreplaceable, and it's being ruined by the billboards. And there isn't really a word to replace せっかく in English. It's a word that I would say is in some ways influenced by Japanese culture, the idea of the preciousness of the sakura, because it only comes for a short time and it's quickly blown away by the winds or beaten down by the rain. The sadness, the fleetingness, the hakanai nature of life and the necessity to grasp what is rare and precious as it passes while we can. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments below and I will answer as usual. I'd like to thank my Gold Kokeshi patrons, my producer angels, and all my patrons and supporters on Patreon and everywhere who make these videos possible. And I'd like to thank you for attending this lesson. As I said in the beginning, I think this is going to be a wonderful era. Whether it begins this year or not, I don't know. But for us, for you, it can begin this year. Perhaps it began last year. Despite everything, you're moving forward in Japanese. The doors are opening into a wonderful new world of understanding and imagination. And I want to thank you for coming on this journey with me. Let's face this beautiful future together. これからもよろしくお願いします。Class dismissed.